The following is a presentation of Santa Monica College.
Hello, and welcome to Santa Monica Social Weekly. This is Sevla Demirbaş. Today's show will be focusing on video games, cons, and pros. Stay tuned to meet our guests. I hate reporting sad news. But when my team sent me this heartbreaking story, we could have not ignored the importance of it on our subject, video games addiction, and its effect on young children. Maybe you have heard the story of this 14-year-old boy from Japan many years ago. He enjoys killing cats by cutting off parts of the body. He was really seduced into playing the game where players kill monsters by using magic and weapons. This boy played the game for 8 hours every day for 1 year. When we asked about his motive of killing the cats, he said, "I thought I wanted to kill while playing the game." After seeing this kind of news more and more, I think video game addiction can be very dangerous, especially for children under age. We send our reporters to ask random people what they think about this news and if they think video games make children violent.
What do you think about the news?
I feel it's more a psychological problem with him.
I think it's just his own personal,
It's not really... I think it did have to do something with what he was watching because he's young and his brain's still developing, so...
I think it's basically showing a very undeveloped young man.
It's very sad. It's very shocking, but I'm not surprised at all because those games are sometimes really violent.
So do you think playing video games make children violent?
No, I don't think a video game has any effect on the person.
If someone's not there to tell them that it's not real, but even if they're too small, they shouldn't be playing games like
I
that.
think it enables them to be a little bit more violent.
Yes, I do. It's the same thing as watching television. Basically, this becomes their focus. Quite often it can lead to them thinking this is how life really is.
It's not really a game to have guns and play with them.
Well, I'd rather not have my grandkids play video games. However, I have no choice in the matter. They basically have lost their socialization skills. Quite often they'll just sit in a chair for hours and not talk to us, their grandparents, their parents, or anybody else.
Even a soldier doesn't like to kill.
I don't like that.
I don't think that, those games are appropriate.
This is just scary. But we try to think that this do not happen to everyone. That's why we invited someone who can share his experiences about video games with us. A college student and a video game player, Charles Mansfield. Welcome, Charles.
Thank you, Sebla.
Well, based on what I know, you play video games more than me and most of the people here in studio.
I wouldn't say that.
Okay, how much time you spend playing video games?
I usually spend about 4 or 5 hours throughout the week, whenever I have free time.
Per week, per day?
More like per week, yes.
So, would you call yourself a gamer?
Yes, I would call myself a gamer.
But could you describe what is the difference between a gamer and someone who just plays video games?
Well, basically, for gamer is like you're a lot more competitive and you interact with other friends, you compete in tournaments, online matches, and just basically have a good time. And for just playing regular video games, it's just to have fun. That's all I have to say.
Okay, so is there a reason of why you play video games? Just for fun?
No. Well, I wanted to do video games as a career, and that's why I've been starting up my YouTube channel. And I'd be posting gameplay of Dragon Ball and etc.
So how do you play? Wow, how do you feel after playing video games?
Sometimes energetic, but if I'm not in a good mood, I'll just turn it off and just do something else productive.
But as a college student, do you think it affects your grades, your social life?
Grades, no. Social life, sometimes. It depends.
Explain.
Whenever if I like have a free day, then I don't want to be bothered by anyone.
You just want to play video games?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
You're welcome.
Well, that's it for now. We will be back with our other guest, Michael Stella. Hello, welcome back. We are here with another guest, Michael Stella, a gameplay capture artist. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Sebla. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So, can you tell us about your work?
Sure.
What do you do?
Sure. So as a gameplay capture artist, what I do is I capture footage for video game trailers and commercials. I'm part of the marketing team, basically, and so I go in and anytime you play a video game, there's a virtual camera that's attached to the character, and I break that camera away and fly it around and get interesting and cinematic shots that you wouldn't normally see in a video game. That way, to make it more exciting and cinematic and fun.
Okay, that sounds exciting.
It's fun. It's like being the entire camera crew on a set, but in a virtual setting. So you got to do everything yourself. It's pretty awesome.
Okay, now I have to ask you a very important question, but I need you to be honest.
Yeah.
Do you play video games?
Yes, yeah, I play video games. Not as much as I'd like to because I'm a father, I have 2 kids, I work 2 jobs, and I go to school. And so I don't really have the free time that I would like, but lately, the only times I've been playing video games is when I'm working. So I must say I do like my job because it gives me the chance to play video games. Yeah.
It sounds like you have the, I don't know, best job?
It's pretty awesome. I mean, I've come from a film background, and I also tested video games, and I played video games and watched movies all my life. So doing this is really awesome because I get to bring my two passions in my life into one awesome career.
So you can answer this question based on your position in the company or your personal opinion.
Absolutely.
What is the purpose of creating this magical world that we see in video games?
Fun. I mean, entertainment, you know? I mean, so just like any sort of escapism with a movie or a video game, you're trying to get into a position and you're being put in a situation that you wouldn't normally be in real life. And so it allows you to explore different worlds, allows you to explore different personalities, and just have some fun in the process.
Well, we see in most of the games, you know, players faces challenges, struggles that needs to be solved.
Absolutely.
Do you think it can help, video games can help a person?
Yeah, I mean, I think any form of problem-solving situation is going to make that person better at solving problems. So if you get stuck in a video game, you show a little perseverance, you try it a different way, you use some different timing in your moves, and you're able to accomplish whatever feat you needed to accomplish. And I think perseverance is a very important thing to have in your life.
But we see all the situations where children have a change in their behavior. Like the news we presented in the opening of the show. So I have to ask, do you think video games have negative effects on children underage?
I mean, I think they can, but I don't feel like, I mean, listening to what you reported about earlier, I don't feel like it's like that is the negative side effects. You know, I bet dollars to donuts that guaranteed that child had some, emotional and mental issues before he started playing games, and which led to his kind of sociopathic and psychopathic behavior. What I think is more a problem is antisocial behavior. You start becoming obsessed with your video game, and you don't want to do anything. I mean, there's people who spend, 3 weeks, 14 hours a day playing playing World of Warcraft or something like that, and they don't shower for 3 weeks.
I know before you said people get divorced because of
that.
that.
Yeah, people do.
My
I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a whole website devoted to it. I think it's called Widows of Warcraft.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's all these people's stories about, Warcraft literally ruining their marriage, ruining their lives. I mean, people get so obsessed with it, they don't go into work, they don't go into school, they don't do anything.
So what can you tell to those players that have been playing for a long time and those who are new?
take a break. You know, take a break, go outside, see the sun, hang out with some friends.
Especially we live in Los Angeles.
Exactly.
It's always sunny here.
Exactly. I mean, ultimately, when it comes down to anything can be dangerous if you do it all the time. And so you need to take it all in doses. You know, just play for a few hours, go out and do something with a friend, go see your family. You know what I mean? Like, you can't always be playing video games. It's not gonna help you in the long run, in my opinion. I mean,
you gotta live.
Yeah, you gotta live. I mean, you gotta live your real life. It's fun to play games. It's fun to escape from your problems every so often, but you don't want that to become your life. In my opinion, you don't want that to become your life.
I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your experiences.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome back. Today we have had great guests, but now it's time to welcome a professional who will tell us about the effects and behavior change that a video game can cause on the player. Hello, Colin Smith-Clark.
Hi, Sebla. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. Well, first I need to ask you to make it clear.
Mm-hmm.
We heard about being addicted to caffeine, alcohol, tobacco. Is it possible to be a video game addict?
So this is something that the psychological community is still pretty divided on.
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago, the American Psychiatric Association released the latest guidelines for diagnosing mental illness, the DSM-5. This is a book that gives all mental health professionals a common language to use when we're talking about disorders and problems that people are experiencing. They still only recognize gambling addictions as the only behavioral addiction, but there's a section in there that also deals with what we call online video game addiction. So there's an acknowledgement that there can be addictions that take place, but more specifically for, as your last guest talked about, things like World of Warcraft, these very immersive, very large online experiences where people, a small number of people, it has to be pointed out, do develop serious problems that interfere with their lives. So, for instance, in very extreme cases, we have people who have neglected to take care of their children, for instance. But this is something that doesn't seem to be impacting most other people, and definitely most people who play video games.
But if it has very strong effects on children?
Well, so this is another thing that psychologists have been very interested in ever since video games have been created. I should point out that this is not unusual in the history of media in general, that we've had these same kinds of moral panics coming out when we had TV, when we had films, even back when we had novels. People started to worry about youth spending too much time on these, that they're going to make them stupid, make them lazy, make them violent. So in that sense, video games aren't unique. But yeah, psychologists have been looking into this for several decades at this point. We can argue a little bit about some of the research that's been done. The emerging consensus, at least, is that video games have the potential to make people more aggressive, but it's definitely not going to lead to the kind of violence that we might see that we often hear about associated with mass shootings and things like that. This is more on the side that it might make somebody think a little bit more aggressively, or in a laboratory environment, they'll be a little bit more likely to put some Tabasco sauce on somebody else's food, for instance. That might be a common way of measuring aggression in the laboratory.
But you saw the news at the opening.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this boy killed cats. And as motive, he said he wanted to kill while he was playing the game.
Right.
So this sounds like video games has awful effects on young children.
Yeah, and we hear a lot about people who at times can confuse reality. The big problem with this, especially from a scientific perspective, is that it can be very difficult to tell what is actually causing what. So we often hear about people who have played violent video games or listened to violent music after they've done something violent. But of course, the vast majority of people who play these games, who listen to this music, don't behave in a violent fashion. And it appears to be much more likely the case that people who are going to be violent anyway are the people who are more drawn to playing these kinds of video games.
That makes sense, actually. It's like, that makes sense. But what a parent can do?
Well,
because that's really important for a parent.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm definitely not saying that that video games are going to be completely innocuous. And I think parents definitely need to be involved in what their children are playing, just as they would with what their children are watching on TV, what they're finding on the internet. So they need to be involved in their children's lives.
So this is a problem. It is much more than video games. It's also films, internet, even books, you said.
Right, right. If somebody, I mean, especially if we have a very young child who is, being exposed to age-inappropriate content, things that are extremely violent, extremely sexual, this is not going to be a good thing going forward for them, and the parents need to be more involved in that. But again, it's not likely to be the case that even if it is inappropriate for their age, that they're going to necessarily engage in violent behavior as a direct result of that.
Do you think being involved is enough? Like what they can do to protect their children from that? Do they need professional assistance?
Well, if you have a child who is behaving very aggressively, who is behaving violently, if you have a child who is torturing young animals, this is something that unfortunately does happen, and it is potentially an indicator of more significant problems down the road, that they might potentially have more severe mental illness, or at least more significant mental disturbances that they're dealing with at that time. And so if you observe that in a child that you know, or a child of your own, it definitely is a good time to seek out mental health treatment. And I might even recommend having the family take part in that as a unit, instead of leaving that to be something for the child themselves to deal with.
Yeah, parents got to take responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just about child.
Exactly.
Child might be affected by their behavior too. And as we said, video games, films, internet, everything.
Yeah. So there's a lot of media that we're exposed to now, and it definitely can have impacts on how we think, how we behave. But yeah, the good news is that we don't see a whole lot of these much reason to be concerned about creating violent behaviors. In fact, a lot of researchers have looked into some of the positive effects of playing video games that we've been looking into. So for instance, a lot of researchers have found some connection between playing more action-oriented 3D video games, the kind of, well, some of the video games that you have on display right here, and how that can actually enhance a person's perceptual abilities, their reaction time, and even some studies have found that it will help doctors perform surgeries.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
But I heard about like positive effects of video games. I heard about, for example, people be more brave. If they are playing constantly like action, they're being more brave because they don't give up.
Yeah, so there are a lot of people who've made connections between certain personality characteristics, we might say. This can help somebody to have more confidence. The research isn't really very solid on that, so I can't say much from a scientific perspective. But speaking from a personal perspective, it can definitely help somebody to become more confident, and especially if we're thinking about somebody who maybe has some issues with building social skills, things like that. This might be just another hobby, another avenue for them to connect with other people.
But probably with the right games at the right age.
Right, exactly. And we should also point out that not all video games are violent. And actually, there's also some significant research that when somebody plays a violent video game, they tend to behave a little bit more violently immediately afterwards. There's also a lot of evidence that shows that after people play a cooperative game where they're working towards pro-social goals, that they actually are going to be more likely to help people afterwards. So the content matters a lot as well. What kinds of games are you playing? What kind of goals are you trying to achieve in the game?
Okay. Well, to end with this segment, can you tell those parents what they should do to protect their child from unwanted effects of video games, even films? What they can do?
Yeah, I think one of the best things you can do as a parent is really to talk with your child, to be aware of what kind of media they're consuming, what they're being exposed to with their friends. Be aware that a lot, especially as children age, that a lot of their interests are going to be developed outside of the house. And also to do this without a lot of judgment. If you react very strongly to something, sometimes that's going to be appropriate. If it is, again, an age-inappropriate game, if they're 6 or 7 and they're playing a game that's labeled for 18 and up, that's probably not going to be appropriate for them. But also, you don't want to develop patterns where they are going to be playing this at their friend's house and then they're going to be hiding it from you. It's more important to be able to develop a conversation with your child, especially about violence and other more mature themes that they might encounter.
Well, Colin, thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure.
Sharing your knowledge and experiences with us. Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a nice day.
You too.
That was it for today's show. We had great guests. I hope you liked it, and thank you for watching. See you soon with another show and topic to discuss. Thank you.